welcome back to another episode of SyncRiffs. Charles Levan, LA-based sync agent, here in the studio with two very special guests, Marcus Mannersen, aka Defingas, and Nathan Foreman from Super Selective Music Group. How's it going, guys? Good morning.
Good morning, man. Thanks for having us.
Morning. Yeah, appreciate. Actually, it's afternoon where I am, but I appreciate the opportunity to be on the show.
Hey, a long time coming. I met both you guys back when it was, the NAMM conference, and 2 degrees of separation. I feel it's like 1 degree of separation. We run in the same circles, so wanted to have you guys on to, if you will, a state of the music industry. Where do we start? But to get things rolling, both your companies are no stranger to success when it comes to the sync lane, music libraries, trailer lanes, and television. And one of the current events, Marcus and Nathan, that we're seeing is everything that's happening with AI. And I'll set the table up and then we'll open up to the chat. But basically, a couple of things happening. The most recent within the last week is some lawsuits that are happening from the major label side with Suno. And then on the flip side of that coin, we see Timbaland he launched A-Pop, a label with his first artist. And basically, the conversation that we need to have as musicians, composers, and artists is AI is here. We can't turn that back. But how are you, Marcus and Nathan, with the roadmap ahead, 6 months to a year from now? What are you hearing on the ground as a composer, as a musician? You both have music libraries. How do you manage what might be coming down as a threat to your libraries, your livelihood? And before I go even further, I'll play the clip in a minute. But I'm just going to share this on the screen, guys, because I don't know if you had seen this, but this has been propagating on the internet. So NBA Finals, it was an ad that was all AI created, and it was a commercial for Kalshi. And the guy who created it, he's like, I made this all in AI, all the visuals are AI. He didn't articulate whether the music is also AI. But the fact that this AI generated visual content was approved and used as a commercial in the NBA Finals, I'll leave it right there, and I'll turn the mic to you, Marcus, first. But had you seen that ad? Had you heard about it? And what are your thoughts so far?
So I haven't seen that ad or heard about it. So this is like the first initial reaction. I didn't know we were there yet. I have up until now been seeing a lot of music supervisors pushing back, sort of saying we want human, generated music, no AI generated, just on the music side. I don't know specifically on the image, the videos, the photos, things like that. But just from the music perspective, libraries have been, doubling down on making sure that composers are not using AI to generate music. And I specifically say generate music because I do use AI, whether you want to consider Ozone, which is a mastering plugin, if you want to consider that as AI for like mastering and things like that. Of course, I use AI in Disco for getting lyrics for songs, to transcribe the lyrics, not to create the lyrics, but to transcribe lyrics if the artist didn't send me their lyrics. So there are some ways to use AI. I use AI for Logic Pro to get stems, stem bouncing. There's a great platform for that. So there's a lot of great usage for AI, and personally, I use it for imagery, creating images. So seeing that, someone using it for the ad side and monetizing it, and for the companies to approve it, it wasn't clear to me whether they were told it was AI generated, but I'm guessing it was. They were told. So yeah, it's actually interesting. I haven't seen that. So like you said, it's here to stay. Whether we want it to be here or not, we just have to figure out how we can coexist with the technology that's here, how we can use it to our benefit and integrate it into our workflow. But I'll stop right there.
No, yeah, great points there, Marcus, because I think all 3 of us in the sync licensing space, and we also have, we work on the education side of things, is educating folks on, what is sync licensing, copyrights, and how to properly create a song, register your track. But before I pass the mic to you, Nathan, to share basically what you had echoed, Marcus, I had an interview with film composer and producer Brian Ralston, and that's going to drop in 2-3 weeks. But basically, he broke it down on the granular level, and basically that said, if something's created in AI, via a word prompt. So if you tell it, do this, create this, basically whatever you create is not copyrightable. Essentially, it's public domain. And so where the studios sit on that is if they can't own it and they can't copyright it, they're not going to use it in a film. Background actor, if you will. So for now in the US, we're safe. In other countries, UK, things, that debate's going on. So that's kind of the definition of what is copyrightable. Can it be used? But that begs the question of this Kalshi ad. This is a commercial, and we'll have to go down the rabbit hole. And as a postmortem, I'll post a link, because if he created the sound bed, the music also with AI, and it was used and monetized, that goes against the definition I just gave a second ago. So it's going to be interesting. And Nathan, to dovetail what Marcus said, how are you using AI potentially in your workflows, and what are your thoughts on the topic?
As far as using AI, I don't use too much AI outside of like maybe ChatGPT and stuff like that, as more so just to help me with basic admin work. But I do have my eye on it. I follow a lot of different filmmakers. There's a whole community right now of AI filmmaking, and they have like an AI filmmaking awards. And you can go on LinkedIn, you can type in AI filmmaking, you can see there's a whole community doing stuff like what Kaushi did, and just making these short films and these advertisements and these short little clips, and they're sharing exactly what they use, all the programs they use, the whole step, and sometimes even their prompts. And you can see like there's this whole world being created. And whether we have an opinion on it as musicians or creatives in general doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day, the person who is not a musician, not a creative, can just go and type in this prompt and use this tool whether we like it or not. And I think that it's going to be difficult on the back end side for legal to keep up with the amount of demand for the music that's going to be created, because you already see like on YouTube right now, there's a whole world of automated playlists of just all AI music. It's just like lo-fi beats or calm meditation music. So we're not going to be able to compete with that. Whether we morally feel like AI should be involved in our space or not, I think it's more so of understanding how to use the tool creatively and in a way where it still feels authentic to you, whatever that looks like to you as a creator, and also understanding that your value as a musician creating music from an authentic space goes up as the demand and the commodity of AI music gets out there. It's going to lessen the threshold of how much quality music is out there, and you being a human being experiencing things that maybe some like an AI can't experience, like sadness, going through breakup, just real life things, is an experience that another human can connect with, and it's going to raise the value, in my opinion, of your music in the long run. So I mean, it's interesting to see how the landscape overall with AI is changing, especially in the creative space. But I think there's ways that we have to kind of just study and understand it. I think keeping our eye on it and understanding it is the best way to go about it. And obviously it's going to cause outrage, but we have to be patient with ourselves and understand like this is a change that we're seeing in our space.
Yeah. Tell me if you guys agree, to draw that parallel and analog is just how like sampling was in the old day, beginning back in the time, so to speak. All's Boutique Beastie Boys, I always talk about that record, but until folks said, okay, you could sample a record, but you got to clear it. Here's the proper way. And, hopefully, I think until things are codified, and same with the issues of copyright, how do you credit someone? Because all AI is doing is taking in inputs from existing songs. And that's kind of the controversy, what's going on with Timbaland. So I think, with A-pop, if I'm not mistaken, he's taking his music and putting it into Suno, and then Suno will spit out lyrics, and then he creates this artist that's on a K-pop tip. But all those platforms need real music to train the algorithm, and that's what the major labels, they had sued Suno, and now they're trying to work it out and say, hey, we'll give you all our existing artists to train the AI. And then the question is, are those artists going to be paid or not? Or are they just going to be used to create this machine? And so the plot thickens. It's still early days on that. And kind of thread the needle to both of your guys' work. And Marcus, I know you had done some work with Disney. And if you want to talk about, I think it was the 5th anniversary of Disney, and you composed something for them?
Yeah, so it was Disney theme parks celebrated 100, or I think it was the 100th of Disney overall, and they were updating one of their attractions called Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln. And I had a couple months before I landed that project, I released a neoclassical trailer project and just shared it with newsletters and communities that I'm part of. To be honest, it's actually probably a terrible album compared to now because I've learned so much over the years. Yes, yes. Even some trailer composers I sent it to, they're like, "Yo, these strings are like," I'm like, "Yeah, I know," but it was like I'm starting out. This is how I get my feet wet. But it did, lead to that opportunity. So I shared it in one of these groups, and one of the groups newsletters I'm part of. There were people that were working with Disney theme parks on this attraction, and they were looking for a black composer because the attraction was telling the story of Frederick Douglass and Abraham Lincoln. It's called Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln. So as before you get onto this, it's not a ride, it's a like animatronic show. And before you go see that show, there's like an opening, sort of like documentary 15-minute film that plays in the waiting room. And I did the music for that film, that project. It was, personal goal to work with Disney. I definitely need to update my website. I haven't updated my site in years. But personal goal to work with Disney. So
Yeah.
now a vendor, and being a Disney family, we've done spent way too much money on the cruises and parks and everything. So to finally be on the other side of it with them, it's been great.
Congrats on that. Yeah, and multifaceted, the triple threat, if you want to use an analog. I know composer also. You mix and master.
I do. I keep going back and forth whether I want to offer that as a service because I know like the mix and master engineers, that get paid really well. So it's like I mix and master, my version of mixing and mastering for the stuff that I'm pitching to sync. So I haven't really done the pay me to mix your song.
Sure.
But I go back and forth because I know it's going to take away from the production, which is what I want to focus on: music production, composing.
Yeah.
The sync and trailers.
100%. And to weave it in, Marcus, if you want to spend some time, because of course you have your SyncRiffs to Success community and sample packs. Tell us, how long you've been, so you create your own sample packs and there's a wide array of selections here.
So I do, thanks for sharing the bits, but what a couple of years ago, I think it was even during the pandemic, I had a chat with S1, Symbolic One, incredible producers, work with like Kanye, Jay-Z, Beyonce, Eminem, a lot of major artists. And I had a chat with him because I would always buy these sample packs from like S1 or Cardiac or Illmind. Cymatics blew up over the last several years. So I would buy all these sample packs and I would just be like, I don't think I'm the person to be in that space. And when I talked to S1, when I had my first meeting with them, I had a couple sample packs that I created just for the meeting. And he was like, "Yo, why don't you just put out sample packs?" And I was like, "No, that's what you guys do. You, Illmind, whatever. I follow you guys." Cardiac. And he's like, "No, man, you should just do it." So I put out a couple sample packs, maybe 2021, 22, and didn't do much for me, but it actually led to working with a lot of companies. So over the years, I've done sample packs for a lot of DAWs, some I can't mention, but the most recent one that was released was BandLab last month. I released a sample pack on their site, and that's now available they have over 100 million users on that app. So it's been an interesting journey on that side of things, just creating loops and samples. So yeah, doing the sample packs and having the communities and offering those services, but it's also not really, no samples in sync. So it's really also like contradictory, unless it's really manipulated. So
right.
I let people know like, hey, some of them are royalty free, but you have to really twist them and flip them so that you can't recognize it.
100%. But in this day and age, you got to be multifaceted because, as we all know, sync is so uber competitive, and I think and thanks, Marcus, for the backstory on that. And I think that's a great segue. Nathan, if you want to talk about, and I'm going to share your website, but when you had me on your podcast, we had a chat about how you broke into the industry, and then you formed your company, Super Selective. And your first gig, remind me of the name of the company and what your role was there. And then you were also creating original compositions for them.
Right. Yeah. So I got my start as an intern for 7 months unpaid with Signature Tracks. And then eventually I earned my role on there. I was doing basically all the metadata for their catalog drops each quarter. And then eventually I got moved up into a music supervisor for their company. So I spent a lot of time in the editing bays, did a lot of cue sheets. I know you had Jordan Young recently on your podcast. He was talking about like RapidQ. I have a lot of time in RapidQ. But also at the same time, I was composing for them too as well. So I was building on my own catalog with them, their library, and they do a lot of stuff for, reality TV and stuff like that. So I was able to create, a strong stream of revenue through the back end. working with them, and then eventually left them. Their admin side of it still composed for them, and then started creating a community, and similar to Marcus, and just started educating everybody from what I've learned from that time, starting from like 2020ish. And I started realizing there's a lot of talented musicians out there that I was building within my network. So I was like, you know what, let me try to represent some of their catalogs for them.
Yeah.
And that's how Super Selective kind of started.
Very nice. And then as far as like your first initial foray in landing some syncs on the television side, reality based, or what was some of the early syncs back in the day?
So my first placement, it's a crazy story actually. My first placement was on Skin Wars on GSN. But the cool thing about it is that I got to see that process in real time. So we had to go in, and they had basically time code notes from the network. The network basically heard the tracks, and they were like, okay, we want to replace some of these tracks. They'll like replace scenes or whatever, or rearrange scenes, and they'll say, okay, replace these tracks. So we saw them replacing these tracks, and they were going through bins that we had prepared we were in their production company. And they were going through tracks, and they landed on my track. And this is like this is my first, year with them. So they landed on my track and they're like, oh, we like this one. It has like good energy, fits really well with the dialogue. So they put it in there and they use it and they kept it. So I got to see my first placement get used in real time with Skin Wars, and then it aired. So that was like a crazy moment. It was with RuPaul. RuPaul was like the main host on that show. So that was like the birth of my first placement. That kind of gave me the confidence to know like, okay, I could do this.
That is too cool. And talk about house legend. I think the track was back when I was coming up in 2000, the house scene of RuPaul's You Better Work. It was, I'll have to pull it up, but man, that is dope, Nathan. And you continue to, kill it with Super Selective. And then we'll have to circle back and talk about what the trends are, what you guys are seeing. But to dovetail it, Marcus, I was curious, what was your first sort of sync placement? And was it TV, film, or was it on the trailer side?
Let's see. I got into, I didn't know it was sync. I signed a somewhat terrible deal. I signed it, so was it that terrible? But this was forever ago. It was with production company. I won't say the name, but they do a lot of reality TV show placements. I just, I sent them like a bunch of beats. The beats are actually terrible, but I sent them like 100, 200 beats, and no upfront. I didn't know what sync was. I didn't review the agreement. I didn't have a lawyer review anything. I was focused on playing in church. So I was like musically, my focus was playing in church. And then, I was getting BMI statements of like $40. And I was like, okay, this is cool. Didn't think much of it. It wasn't until the pandemic came in where I started having less time to focus on church because everyone was virtual. And I started figuring out getting into sync. So there was a company, it's a great company, they still exist today, called Hard Drive, HRDRV. It is a subscription, so I'm not a huge fan of subscribing for sync and briefs. They do more than sync and briefs, they do a lot, but they had opportunity when they were getting to the sync space to work with BMF. They had a direct connection with the music supervisor with 150 Cent's shows.
Oh, nice.
I got like a lot of placements within the first year of them getting into sync on Stars, on the BMF show on Stars. And they were like, hey, it's going to be, a couple thousand a placement and you won't get paid for 9 months. And I was like, wait, what? So I was like, okay, I guess. And then come think about it, I think got the placements in May. They didn't air until December of that year. So got a nice Christmas bonus.
Nice.
But then I didn't with them. I kept submitting to opportunities, but didn't get another placement for like a year. And I was like, wait, what's happening here? So that's when I started figuring out, learning about sync and educating myself, finding videos and panels on YouTube, and then going to conferences and then myself putting on these conferences. So it all started with the pandemic. I wouldn't be able to focus on this space. I wouldn't be where I am right now on the sync and trailer side if it wasn't for the pandemic, the pandemic overall, it was a terrible experience, but it allowed us to sort of refocus and shift and align more with maybe the goals that we have and dreams that we have, at least in my case.
Yeah, I think, there's to thread that needle, Marcus and Nathan, because, I got the gray hair to prove it, but back in the day, 2002 was pre YouTube. I think Snapchat was in the infancy. G was just in 2012, later, about 10 years later, it was starting to take hold. But physical CDs with a sticker, we would send it, and that's how we serviced pitches. And then if it was a Dropbox link or WeTransfer. Now, with obviously my question for both you guys, our job is like, I'll coin that phrase, not 24/7, 365, but it's 25/8, 366 between the creative. You guys are creating every moment. We're both fathers, and when you integrate social media, IG, TikTok, we have a community, we have a sync community. And we'll go in backwards order. But Nathan, how do you, let's say 5 days a week, you've got your pitches for briefs, you got maybe a handful of songs that you're trying to finish and complete, mix, master, and then you have your community. How do you automate your day with respect to balancing it between creation, and then there's also managing the social media aspect?
That's a great question. I know this. I know that like you're going through this as well. It's hard. It's hard. It's like you have to really figure out what you want to prioritize that day. But I have a standard within myself, so I want to make sure I have a certain amount of tracks registered a day. I want to make sure I have a certain amount of tracks created within a week. I have a certain amount of posts that I want to put out in a week. So I keep a standard, and to keep it small, because if you try to do like, I'm going to do 10 posts today and then I'm going to do 10 tracks tomorrow, like you're going to burn yourself out, and it's very dicey at that point. But if you keep very, very small steps, like, okay, I'm going to spend 30 minutes working on this or an hour working on this within that time frame that you have, that's it gets a lot easier to create momentum and create a routine. So I'm very big on like structure and routine. So that's typically how I manage my days. Like when my kids are at school, because I have a 6-year-old and a 2-year-old, they're at school, I'm working. And then, I do the night routine with them after they're asleep. I do a little bit of work, but then, like you said, it's 24/7. So like yesterday, you sent out a brief of something that you had. I was on my way to like a barbecue with my family. So I was like, oh, let me send this real quick. I'm in the car. My wife's getting like the kids out. Like, let me send these tracks real quick. So, it's around the clock whenever you need it. I learned that working with Signature Tracks is like, it's literally 24/7. Like you said, it's nonstop. It could be in the middle of the night sometimes. And it's like, when you really want it, good things happen over time when you make those little small sacrifices. So that's kind of how I manage my time.
Well said. The discipline, and what I've been trying to do is when it's family time, literally, lock the phone up. So 2-3 hours, I'm not like, FOMO, what, am I missing something? And then in my head, I'm like, all right, right around 3 or 4, I better check my emails, because I know if folks need an asset by the end of the day, or there's a last minute pitch, I'm like, okay, 3 o'clock. And lo and behold, there's times I checked it. I'm like, boom, I got it. And otherwise, 6 p.m. rolls around, end of day, we missed it. We missed the opportunity. So I'm sure that we kind of have, it's like the 4 quarters in a basketball game, and they're like, all right, man, we got 20 minutes left. Let's win in the fifth quarter and close hard. But no, thanks, Nathan. Great flow there, and I agree. And Marcus, how about yourself?
Yeah, so I have a little bit of a different life. I work full time at National Geographic, which is in DC. And so we're in the office right now at least 3 days a week. For a while, I would say I was struggling, because I was, during the pandemic, focusing on sync. When we started going back in the office, I would have opportunities, hey, send me alt mixes, send me stems or whatever. And I would send stuff from my main computer over to my work computer, so that when I take my work computer to work, I could do whatever I need to do if I had a quick minute to adjust a mix. And then it started shifting to me taking both my personal computer and my work computer to work for like a summer. And then eventually it got to the point where it's like, I'm just going to take my personal computer to work, because all of my files are on here. Sometimes I would be asked to, adjust a song that I had on my personal computer, but not on my work computer. And I might not have been able to access stuff like in the cloud. So yeah, so now I just take my personal computer to work. And then I have this thing, which you can see right here. This is
nice.
ESI Audio X Key Air 37. I also have a 25 key. The 25 key fits in my book bag. So I take that to work every day. So like last week I posted, I was running like a session, and my coworkers know I make music. Like we had a studio when I started working there. So the whole, they know music is what I do. Literally running a meeting, have my keyboard up there. I was working on, some mixes and stuff. So that's the by day, doing sort of the double duty. And then by night, get home, hang out with family, have a wife and kids and a dog. And I'm usually up all night making music. Last night I was up, actually later than I'm usually up. I was up till probably 4:30 working on a brief. And my wife messaged me, she's like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm trying to finish this brief so I can get to bed. But usually I'm up till, I would say, between 9 and 1 and 2 working on briefs and music, and then do it all again the next day. And then sometimes, can't get them all, because sometimes you get them last minute briefs, or I'm out with the family. Sometimes I debate whether I need to bring my laptop out if we're going, to the beach or something. I was like, you know what, I just got to be in the moment with the family. And if I miss it, I miss it. There'll be more. Yeah. And meeting great people, working with great libraries and sync agents and music supervisors, and collaborating with artists. And so I think there's so many opportunities right now that there's a lot of opportunities to be jaded by what AI is doing right now. Because there's a lot of work outside of AI, but eventually, we're going to have to cross that bridge when we get to it. But we can't focus on that if we have other stuff that we need to get done. But yeah, that's sort of the workflow. Wake up, doing mixes and stuff all day, bounces all day. Like I said, there's an AI platform I use to bounce stems out when I need them, and alt mixes and things for Logic Pro. Yeah, so just do it all until 2 or 3 in the morning.
And squeeze in sleep when you can't. I'm like, you take naps during that? When do you sleep?
I need 4 hours at least. If I can get like 6 hours, that would be great. But I try to get at least 4 hours of sleep a night. But I don't suggest that for anyone. I do not suggest that for anyone. Like get as much sleep as you can. Yeah, he does the sleep schedule. I haven't tried the sleep schedule yet, where you sleep like 2 hours off and on throughout the day, but it adds up to 8 hours over 24. But I need to try that.
I saw that somewhere. Someone they said are folks who if you take a little nap during that cat nap during the day, and then but to your point, I'm like, because the 8-month-old wakes up at 5:30, so I go to bed about midnight. So 5.5 hours is I think all of us can agree that's the sweet spot if we can get it.
Yeah.
But no, it sounds like both Marcus and Nathan, because I think and I'll turn this to you, Nathan, real quick, because you had shared it once, and then Marcus, you could weigh in. But because I also teach songwriters and producers, we're writing debriefs and pitches, and we both have done this long enough. And when we're looking at a waveform, and Nathan, you've and I'll share the link to your YouTube page, Excalibur Zero, and everything you do. But there's that fine art, especially with like reality shows. If you want to talk about, creating that tension and drama in a track. So an editor, as we all know, if it's Temptation Island or Love is Blind, they can cut to it and they find that piece. If you want to spend a couple moments on, is that correct? You have some clips. You kind of talk about that?
Yeah, definitely. I've seen in real time where like music supervisors will look at a track and a waveform and know whether they're going to, use it to send to the editors or not. Just because if it's one long block, they know there's no edit points, especially in reality TV. There's a lot of dialogue in TV in general, right? But in reality TV, there's like moments of like drama, there's moments of comedy, there's even funny moments, lighthearted moments. So there needs to be like this give and take kind of question answer type of feel with production. And one thing that I've learned is that silence is an instrument in reality TV. Like if you have dropouts, if you have little snare rolls and little fills and stuff like that, those are all great edit points for the editor to kind of to edit to the visual. So a really good piece from my mentor, his name is Russell Howard. He's like a 35 or 36 time ASCAP award winner. He was a lead composer of signature tracks. He is a lead composer of signature tracks. He said that editors are almost like music producers, where instead of them cutting up music together, they're cutting their music to picture. So your song is kind of leading the way to picture. So they're chopping up the little visuals and they're chopping up your music to the visual. So I like to think of it in that space where does my track have a short intro? Is there room for dialogue? Are there busy leads that are like saxophones or guitar, distorted guitar leads that are going to distract with the vocals? Are there A sections, B sections? Are there sections where there's different pieces? So I think of my track as like 3 different pieces. There's a hook, verse, and a different piece, like a bridge or a break that they can use these little sections, and then fills or dropouts or silence points where they can use that to cut into the track. So those are some of the techniques that I've learned along the way, and when you get to see it in real time, you start to understand it a lot deeper.
Hey man, we're gonna break the internet. Let's do a masterclass right now. Let's go. I love it. And it's interesting because, correct, like you said, this is only a guide, but the screen doesn't lie, and then the editor will listen to and see, correct, does the instrumentation have enough emotion or too much emotion, and is it going to compete with the dialogue? So walk us through. So correct, so you want to see these builds here, and what, like, creating gaps. So we know there's a drop, correct?
Right, exactly. Like little silence points. Sometimes it's just like a little fill, or sometimes you're literally just cutting out the track where it's just dead silence. It's just like points where they can cut that track and use it later on the track. Like a good tip I've also learned is that you want to almost make it feel like, or like sometimes after your hook, your first hook, right? If you have it where it feels like the sting is hitting, especially in comedy tracks where your sting is hitting right after your hook, but then the track keeps going, those are great edit points. Those are great points where editors can use to cut out the track. So like almost pretending your sting is in the middle of your track and just putting it in random places sometimes where it just breaks the momentum over the track and keeps it interesting.
Copy that. And correct, when you see this little tail here, so that tells us it's like it's fading out.
Right, like a sting hit at the end of the track, which you don't see that as much, right? In scripted series, correct me if I'm wrong, right? Like scripted series are not going to have as much stings compared to reality TV. Reality TV is like full of stings.
Correct. That's what, in traditionally in my experience. Marcus, if you want to weigh in, are these things with your placements in reality shows? Like, what's your approach there? Because I know you occupy also the trailer side of things.
So yeah, it depends. Because some looking at that waveform, that to me looked like it was trailer because it's going like up, like in intensity. There are some things where I recently did a project where they just wanted it like steady, like they didn't. It wasn't like a trailer track, so it was like I think underscore tension. And there's all these different genres and sides of sync and trailers that it's almost as many genres as there are just music in general. So you have these different layers and levels and different ways of learning. So in that case of the waveform that you showed, I would see like intro on the trailer side. It'd almost be like the 3-ish act structure, almost like 4 acts, where you have like intro, then you have like a little build, and then you go into like act 2, and then your act 3, which would be like the all bells and whistles. In some cases, you would have what some people call like the tag or the act 4, like the outro, which could be even more intense or it could be more mellow, just a piano. It just all depends musically which direction you want to go. And of course, everything is up to the client's discretion. They might say, hey, change this here. As Nathan mentioned, the editor might just move some stuff around. So as creators, I can't be tied to, no, it has to be in this order. I put the chorus first and, the verse is over. They might want to, if it's a commercial, they might only have 15 seconds. So they're going to chop up or ask you to cut up. So being able to know how to do these different edits and different alts and mixes and provide them the building blocks or the Lego blocks so that they can build whatever they want to build out of the different sections, out of the stems, out of your alt mixes, giving them as much flexibility as possible. By them, I mean the editors or music supervisors. And with Nathan knowing how they work directly, and seeing them work, like he knows what to give them. And when you work with more libraries, they also tell you, some libraries might only want the instrumental and the full song if it has vocals. Some libraries I'm doing 20 or 30 different mixes for because they want, they don't want the stems, but they want, no drums, no bass, no vocals, no piano, no lead. So there's like all these different versions and variations that they know works for their clients. So there's no one right or wrong way. Some people want waves, some people want AIF. They want it named differently. So there's all these different things to keep in mind with these different libraries. Not even just different libraries, but their clients. So they might be working with one client that wants it one way and another client that wants it another way. So you have to make sure you are following the instructions. That's definitely key for at least getting the stuff through. You got to follow instructions and meet the deadline.
Yeah, so much there to both Marcus and Nathan unpack there. Just a couple of points, and I agree, Marcus, what you said there. And I was going to ask you guys, pose the question, because as of recent or as of late, I was working with a producer. What his phrase, and I like it, is, give all the potential options to a supervisor with the goal of maximizing your possibility to place it. And the example he gave is, and I'm curious, Nathan, if you do this. So full traditional songs, what he'll do is provide a 30 second cut down. Take the song, cut it down just to the chorus so they have that meat of the main hook. Do you ever do that? It's an extra step. And have you heard about sync agents doing that?
It pays the same amount as a full mix. So it doesn't matter if it's a stem or not. It's going to pay the same exact amount. So we would see like a lot of no hi-hat stems for like instrumentals, and then only drum and bass stems are really big. And then obviously like no vocals, no background vocals, stuff like that. That way it doesn't compete with dialogue, or just instrumental, really, really popular. So yeah, we definitely ask for those when we're getting stems from our artists and producers.
And good through line, Nathan, when it comes to hi-hats or stems or high-end tinnies, the mix, making sure that doesn't clash. That's a fine art, right? Making sure that doesn't pop too much in the mix so it won't compete with dialogue.
Yeah, definitely. You got like if you're a producer, right, when you have an artist on your track, the vocalist is the main lead, right, for the most part. But when you're making music for television and there's dialogue, the dialogue is the main instrument. So you just got to have enough to support the energy and the pacing or the emotion of the scene, but not too much where it's overpowering and distracting the audio from the dialogue.
Well said. And the time we have, I want to make sure we have enough time to turn the mic to both you guys and share. It's crazy how a 1 hour chat, we could talk for 5 hours and just break this down.
Keep going.
Keep going. Let's do it. 2.0. Well, we'll cut enough content to do 2 episodes. But Marcus, one piece of advice, you would have for someone new looking to break into the sync music licensing space? And what would that be?
Definitely doesn't only have to be one. Definitely learn as much as you can about sync. There's panels, there's courses, there's free courses. I believe Excalibur Zero has one. I might be wrong. Don't quote me on that. But there's free courses you can learn about sync. There's all kinds of panels. I mean, what I did, I used to go to social media like Instagram and hashtag sync, and I would just watch these reels like for hours on end. There's all kinds of YouTube panels and things. I have some up there. And then networking. I mean, you never know. I was at a Recording Academy event last week in DC, and that's where I met Rick. He was like, "You probably know Charles," and like that's when I called you. He was like, "Hey, Charles, I'm meeting with one of your composers," and had a great chat with him just about sync. And so you never know where these people are hanging out, going to these events, networking in person. There's a lot of conferences. There's Excalibur Zero. Actually, for those who don't know, Nathan is also Excalibur Zero, so I keep calling him Excalibur Zero. I don't know if he still goes by that, but that's
yeah.
Okay. So Excalibur Zero put out a calendar this year, and I pointed people to it, of sync events that are happening throughout the year, in-person meetups. And from what I remember, I think between this year and last year, there's a sync in-person meetup every month except for July. You know, Durango, NAMM, I do panels there. South by Southwest, I've been doing a lot with them. AES, but then you have, I think, what's his name? Farnell just did one in Arizona, you know, with his community. A lot in LA, like almost every week. LA, if you're out in LA, so just join these different organizations. Production Music Association, which is really focused on sync. Guild of Music Supervisors, become a friend of the guild. You have Durango, you have Mondo, NYC, but also strike that balance between, because I'm also in this place where I joined like 3 communities last year, so that's like, you know, 3 different memberships, and then keeping up with all these meetings and meetups, but finding collaborators and sync agents and sync libraries. So one would be learn the business, and 2 would be build those relationships, network, and definitely make sure you understand how to structure your music for the sync licensing space.
Well said. Well said. To you, Nathan, same question.
So I love what Marcus, I'm going to kind of split this up into one. I don't think that you should go into this space with 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I think if you're going to commit, you need to commit. Marcus is a perfect example. Every time I go onto a YouTube page about sync licensing, Marcus is in the comments. I see Marcus randomly in other people's communities, like showing up to live panels and stuff like that. So I think that just being obsessive about this space, you're going to see the reward. If you're obsessive about, like he started in 2020, and from 2020 to now, this is how much success he has found. I think that's a perfect example. If you put your heart into this and you just focus on this, it will reward you over time. And you just got to stay committed, because this is one of the few parts of the industry that shows an open hand, kind of how Charles is doing, and just showing that, you know, this is a community. And Marcus has done the same for me too as well, where it's like an open hand. So I think that being fully committed to this space is really good, but also like kind of reflecting on the sentiment of networking. Both of you guys are perfect examples, in my opinion, of networking. Marcus, obviously, with the events that you hold, every time I see you at an event, you're talking to everybody, shaking everybody's hands, not afraid to pick up the phone. And the fact that you'll take the time to nourish those relationships. Like you've sent me messages randomly, just, you know, checking in on me, just saying, you know, what's up. I think that's a perfect example of like how to stay committed in this space and build and grow a relationship. It takes time, but it's like watering a plant. You got to keep going. Charles, as well as you have communities, you have the API month that you'll do panels every year virtually. And what I really liked about what you did that I've never seen done before is at the end of the panel, you open up the space to network, and you talk to every single person in that Zoom call, have them introduce themselves and say what they do. And I've nourished and I've talked to people from that call, just from people just hitting me up, songwriters and stuff like that too as well. So I think that those, like what Marcus said about networking, is one of the most underrated ways to really find success in this space, because that opens the door to collaborations. And I think collaborations are like the fastest ways to get your foot in the door. And then over time, you know, cold pitches and cold emails also work, but it just takes a little bit more time. So I couldn't have said it better, what Marcus said. And I think that, you know, fully committing to the space, not just saying, should I try this out for a month or 2? Because it's not going to work. It's not going to work if you just do it a month or 2. It's going to take time. And then also nourishing those relationships and building a community with the people who are committed to this space.
Committed and allyship. And that's why the 3 of us are here having this chat today, because I think, you know, we all need that lift up, if you will. We're all cut from the same cloth for our passion for working in the music space. And, you know, it's getting tougher out there. But once you prove yourself, Marcus and Nathan, like you guys have unequivocally, then like I like what you said, Nathan, is the collab aspect. Remixes, bringing in artists, doing a top line melody. I'm here in LA, and Marcus, you're in the Recording Academy. And that same as with you know, applying to the Recording Academy, I'll know this June. I had two recommendations. And, Grammy U, NAM U, all the education, all the assets that are out there to continue to help mentor those that are going to be the future torchbearers. But I can't wait, Marcus and Nathan. NAM, just to spend a second, correct, Marcus, NAM 2025, you're going to do something and we'll all be out there together.
I haven't, would be, what year it would be 2026. Haven't confirmed anything yet. But yeah, I built a lot of great relationships with NAM, South by Southwest, ES, GMC, a lot of great organizations. I actually just met at the Recording Academy event. I met the founder and CEO of SyncCon. She was like, yeah, and I was like, wait, I didn't know you were her. So yeah, meeting all these people at these events. And one more thing that I didn't mention is also check into if you went to like a school, like artistic school. Both Nathan and I are alum from Full Sail University. So that alone itself has a lot of great networks in the sync and entertainment space. And there's a lot of people in this space who went to like Berkeley or Musicians Institute or a lot of those music schools. So check with your alum. You never know what they're up to, colleagues. But yeah, NAM, I believe I'll probably have a chat with them next month. Hopefully we can figure something out. Sometimes they give me 3 panels. Sometimes I have 1 panel. So really up to them. But I always have ideas for all these organizations. So fingers crossed.
100%. Well, I'm planting the seed out there. We'll have to do a Definga's Excalibur Zero and Blue Buddha, whatever, whether it's at NAM, or just let's hold something. We can run out of space. I've got, what is it? If you've never been, it's in Echo Park. It's called the Gold Line Bar. It's Peanut Butter Wolf's bar, and he has his record collection up there. Pac Anderson and Snoop Dogg had filmed the video there, but open bar. I had done an event there, open bar, and there's a DJ playing music for 2-3 hours and a small space. And that's what I'm talking about is meeting in person. And we've got an overlay of our communities that I'm sure will be like, hey, everybody, there's that crossover.
Exactly.
But Marcus and Nathan, I appreciate you guys immensely. And we'll have to do this again. It's just every week or every month, there's always some new topic that is on our radar. And I think just staying in touch, like you guys said, and making sure we're ahead of the curve of trends. Well, right on, guys. I really appreciate you guys. And until next time, we'll catch you on the other side on SyncRiffs. Thanks for tuning in. Namaste. Thank you, Nathan. Thank you, Marcus. Have a good rest of your week.
Thank you, Charles.
Thank you
so much.
Appreciate it.
Go.